The emotional mistake that is silently destroying your authority. Let me start with a scene that may be more common in your life than you realize. You make an important decision. It could be at work, within your family, on your team, or even in how you've chosen to structure your daily routine. The moment someone questions it, you feel something tighten inside. It's not exactly anger, it's urgency, a need to explain better, to justify, to break down every detail so no one thinks you're wrong, too harsh, or impulsive. So you talk more than you should, you adjust your tone, you walk back small parts, and you leave that conversation with a strange sense of exhaustion. The question is simple, but uncomfortable. Have you noticed that in this exact moment, your authority may be quietly eroding? Most people believe authority is lost through major failures, scandals, or public mistakes, but the truth is more subtle. Authority weakens through the emotional micro-decisions you make every day. It's not the big mistake that dismantles you, it's the invisible pattern. The emotional mistake that is destroying your authority is not explosive, it's elegant, socially acceptable, and even praised in some contexts. It's the need to be understood all the time. It's the urgency to make sure everyone approves of your decisions. It's the impulse to soften your position to avoid discomfort. Have you ever noticed how some leaders speak very little, but when they do, the room goes silent? It's not volume, it's not aggression, it's conviction. There is internal stability there. Instability is not built by trying to please everyone. In behavioral psychology, we know the human brain is highly sensitive to incongruence. When your verbal communication says, "I'm confident," but your emotional language conveys, "I need you to agree with me," people notice. Maybe not consciously, but they notice, and perception shapes respect. Imagine a captain at sea. A storm begins. The crew looks at him. If the captain starts over-explaining every decision, trying to convince everyone he knows what he's doing, something breaks. But if he observes, decides, communicates clearly, and keeps the wheel steady, the crew aligns, not because he shouted, but because he held firm. Authority is not external control, it is internal coherence under pressure. And here comes a profound principle. Whoever does not govern themselves tries to govern others' perception. Someone insecure inside tries to control what others think outside, and that is exhausting. Maybe you're living this at work. You establish a healthy boundary, you define a standard of delivery, but when someone questions it, you feel the need to justify beyond what's necessary. Instead of simply clarifying and holding your ground, you try to convince. Deep down, it's not about the decision, it's about the fear of losing acceptance. And fear is a dangerous advisor for anyone who wants to lead. There is a delicate point here. I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm not saying you should ignore feedback. Emotional maturity includes active listening. It includes humility. But there is a profound difference between listening to grow and explaining to protect yourself. When you explain to protect yourself, you're defending your image. When you communicate clearly and hold your decision, you're defending your principles. Principles are anchors. Emotions are waves. If you anchor your leadership in waves, you fluctuate. If you anchor it in principles, you remain steady. In family environments, this becomes even more visible. Parents who negotiate every boundary out of fear of frustration are, without realizing it, teaching their children to constantly test authority. Not because children are rebellious by nature, but because they seek stability. Human beings need structure, and structure requires firmness. In neuroscience, we know predictability reduces anxiety. When someone is consistent, the brain understands that environment is safe. When there is constant oscillation, the brain goes into alert mode. Ironically, many people try to be more flexible to be more loved, but end up creating insecurity. Have you noticed how overly explanatory people are often less respected than those who communicate with objectivity? It's not about coldness, it's about clarity. There is an internal conflict few admit, the desire to be firm and the fear of being rejected. That conflict creates emotional noise, and leadership does not survive constant noise. Maybe your biggest challenge isn't learning new communication techniques, but resolving this internal tension. Because when you are at peace with your convictions, your speech becomes simple. You don't need long explanations to support what you believe. Think about difficult decisions you postponed because you feared people's reactions. Think about the times you knew what needed to be done, but softened it so much the message lost strength. Each of those situations is a small erosion. Authority is built through the repetition of consistency. Historically, leaders who shaped generations were not necessarily the most charismatic, but the most consistent. Consistency generates trust, and trust is the foundation of respect. Spiritually speaking, there is something powerful about silent integrity. It's not the need to be seen as right, but the willingness to remain aligned with what is right. There is a subtle but transformative difference. When your identity is grounded in solid values, you don't feel the need to defend yourself all the time. You listen to criticism, evaluate it, adjust if necessary, but you do not negotiate your essence. The emotional mistake that destroys your authority is allowing every external reaction to determine your internal posture. You must decide who governs your life, your convictions, or other people's approval. And here is something confronting. While you need to be understood by everyone, you will be a prisoner of their expectations, and prisoners do not lead. Maybe you're thinking, but I just want to be fair. I just want people to understand me. That is legitimate. The problem is when this need becomes compulsive, when your peace depends on collective agreement. There is immense freedom in accepting that not everyone will agree with you. Not everyone will understand your decisions at the moment you make them, and that's okay. Mature authority tolerates temporary misunderstanding in the name of lasting convictions. In practice, this means that when you make a decision, you communicate clearly, listen to relevant input, and then hold your ground. Without defensiveness, without long speeches to prove your worth, without stepping back just to relieve tension. Because every time you retreat out of fear, you teach people that pressure changes your position, and pressure will always come. Adult life, especially in leadership positions, is a constant field of emotional testing. Your maturity is not measured by the absence of conflict, but by how you remain within it. Emotional mastery is not suppressing feelings, it's not allowing them to dictate your posture. There is something almost sacred about someone who can remain firm, calm, and coherent while everyone around them is reacting. That person transmits security, and security attracts trust. Maybe your next level isn't about speaking more, but speaking less and holding more. Maybe it's about reducing justification and increasing consistency. Maybe it's about accepting that discomfort is part of growth. Every time you choose to act from principle instead of fear, you strengthen your internal foundation, and leadership begins inside. Do not expect people to validate your transformation. Often they will resist precisely because they were used to your more flexible version, more explanatory, more approval-seeking. But consistency changes perception over time. If you feel your authority has been questioned, don't start by trying to convince more. Start by strengthening your internal conviction. Reevaluate your principles, clearly define what is non-negotiable, and then hold it with calmness. Leading is, above all, governing yourself, and governing yourself requires the courage to endure the discomfort of not being immediately understood. Maybe today is the day you interrupt this silent pattern, to realize that over-explaining is not a sign of maturity, but often of insecurity, to decide that your identity will not be shaped by fear of rejection. You don't need to be aggressive, you don't need to be cold, you need to be firm. If this message made you reflect on your posture, maybe it's because there's something there that needs adjustment. Reflect on your recent decisions. Where did you give in out of fear? Where did you speak too much to protect yourself? Where could you have held more clarity? Growth begins with awareness. If you want to build solid leadership, internally and externally, start by strengthening your inner governance. When your foundation is aligned with principles, your presence gains weight. And when your presence gains weight, your words require less effort. Keep developing this maturity. Question your impulses, adjust your posture. And if this message triggered something in you, share your perspective, leave your comment, continue this journey of evolution, because authority is not a title, it is a consequence, and it begins when you decide that your conviction is worth more than your need for approval.